Hey, it's Ashley and I'm back with another haircut tutorial. Today we're going to be doing a bald fade with a beard trim included. And I am going to start out by combing my client's hair and checking for any indentions and also asking him if he wants a low bald fade, mid bald fade, or high bald fade. My client prefers a mid-high bald fade, so that's what we're going to be doing. Going into that, I like to take my number 2 guard just to kind of give myself a starting point with how high I'm going to go into my fade. And then I'm going to create my guideline with my 0. This is my clippers closed all the way, no guard. I'm starting by tapping out on the line that I've created as I'm going in and debulking. And then I come back up and just lightly tap into that line so that I'm not leaving a really big, hard, separation from where I'm fading. I really want to keep this fade in mind. So fading's going to start as soon as we're putting clippers on the head. So you can see I'm going in, debulking, and then I'm going to flick up as I'm coming into that line that I want to create. So I'm going to continue doing this all the way to the other side of the head. And after, I'm going to lightly tap so that I can go into his beard as well. So when I'm fading and creating that line for my mid-bald fade at the temple, I also want to tap in to the beard as I'm slowly creating a fade on that part as well for my client. So same thing here, I'm going to debulk and then I'm going to go into my fade line and kind of tap to create that light fade from my 0 so that I can easily go into my half guard. Now you can see I'm going to open up my half and then tap into that line I've created with the 0 guard. You can see once I've established my line for where I'm starting my bald fade at, I'm going to work from one side of the head and then back around to the other with my clippers opened. So I started from one side with my clippers closed, and then I worked myself back, and then I opened my clippers, and then I worked myself all the way back to where I began. So now I'm here, and I'm making sure that I'm tapping into that beard because we are going to fade that as well. And then I'm going to go in with my half guard closed. So I'm starting on this side of his head, and I'm going to work all the way back to the other side of his head so that I can keep a consecutive line. I'm making sure that I'm stepping back in this haircut and checking the back of his head so that everything is fading at the same rate. And you can see I'm opening my clippers right here. That's a half open, which creates almost like a 1 guard if you really want to get into it. So we want to make sure we're not cutting into our half fade when we're opening our 1. So sometimes I fade with my 1 a little bit kind of more open than closed when I'm going into that half open because I don't want to create lines in the fade I just made. So I'm going to go in and open my 1 all the way right here. I started from one side with the 1 closed. Now I'm going to go from this side with my 1.5, and that's going to give me a nice smooth fade. I know where I'm going, I know where I'm at. So we want to just keep that in mind when we're fading hair, that we want to know where we are, where we're going, and where we're at all the time. You don't want to get lost in your haircut because you're going to just spend too much time wondering, where am I? So going in, 1.5 guard closed, working my way from one side of the head all the way to the other side of the head. At this point, I'm reaching the parietal ridge and I can start to fade out on the parietal ridge. Now, I like to fade from that 1.5 with my scissor over comb sometimes. It just depends on what you prefer. I like to do all of my dry work before I wet anything on the top of my client's hair. Sometimes they freak out about it, that's okay. So going into my beard trim before I finish the top of the haircut may seem a little odd to some people, but I just prefer it this way. So I'm going in, I'm taking my angles from that sideburn and I'm connecting them and taking all of my corners off. So I'm pulling it out towards the ear, I'm cutting off that corner. I'm pulling it up from where I just created a guide at that corner of the ear, and now I'm going in and I'm just taking a little bit of weight off. I'm taking about 1/2 inch off of this beard. That's going to really just smooth it down. And then following the line that my client's already created for himself, normally your client has their own lines that they prefer, and you just follow them. You kind of clean them up, give them, a slightly better shape so that they can continue following that for themselves at home. Now, on the eyebrows, I like to lightly pull it off and trim them. I do not like to cut really close to the eyebrows because then it looks like they're gone. Moving on to the mustache. We're going to go in, we're going to lightly use the corner of our trimmers, and we're going to follow where the lips top part is. You want to find the white. You don't want to cut too much, but you also don't want to cut too little. So then you want to make sure you get the corners of your trimmers, and using my comb, I'm going to just angle that at the lip with a little 45-degree so that we can clean up any loose hairs that are kind of hanging around. And then just going in on that corner of the mustache and making sure everything's seamless, getting any hair from the inside of the corner of the lip. A lot of my clients really prefer that. And then I go and get that little swoop on the top of his lip that looks like a little heart. That's kind of my favorite part for my clients, to bring out their lips. And then I go ahead and just clean up his flavor saver. I don't know the real name for it. That's what we're going to call it here. And then just slightly kind of taking my trimmers and running it on any wiry hairs that are sticking up. And then we're just going to continue on that angle we started earlier from that ear down into the goatee. This is just going to give a little bit of a fuller effect going into the goatee. And then from there, once I have everything kind of shaped out, I can start really lining up the underneath of the neck. And this will just give me a crisp lineup. Instead of trying to fight everything wiry, we already have the shape, and we're kind of just doing the finishing touches. So then I'm going to also go behind the ear on my client, because while I'm doing all of my dry work, I'm going to line up the back of his neck and then going into my wet work. You can see here I'm wetting my client's hair. I'm moving his bangs out of the way, and I'm going in and I'm working from that 1.5 guard on the parietal ridge, and I'm blending from the corner of his head. Now my comb is angled at a 45-degree angle on the parietal ridge. I'm keeping my longest part at the top of the hair, and my shortest part is going to be meeting that 1.5 guard. From there, I'm going to work myself to the back of the head and bringing everything back to the cowlick. This is going to allow me to leave length in the front of his head and blend everything to that short 1.5. This is how you can keep a heavier look. You want to make sure that your hands are angled upwards and that you are trimming to your 1.5 and no shorter. You definitely want to be careful when you're doing a scissor over comb that you are not cutting into the client's hair. Here's a little detail on this side of the head of what I just did over there. So you can see I'm sectioning out his bangs on the crown of his head, and I'm going in with my scissor over comb, starting at the temple and working my way up. As I'm working my way up, I'm slightly leveling off of the head. So I'm not holding everything onto the head. And then whenever I get close to that 1.5, I'm going to work in almost like a semicircle just to kind of get around the parietal ridge and leave that length on the top. Now, taking that hair that we just blended with our shear over comb, we're going to extend it, and this is going to give us more length at the crown of the head, and it's going to give us a nice blend when we cut the corner from where the length is at on the crown of the head to where our length we created after going shear over comb. So you pick it up and then you find your guide from your shear over comb. This is at the bottom, and you can see it a little bit of detail as I pick that hair up in the crown, and that's going to blend it a lot better to that length on top. This is going to be a guide for the corner. Since we have a light thinning pattern on this hairline, we are going to leave more length here, and that's going to give us an illusion of more hair and thickness. We don't want to keep anything too short. So after I have everything blended out, I'm going to go in and trim the bang length. Now, I didn't set this as a guide when I was cutting in the beginning because it really didn't matter what I was going to do with the bangs until I had everything around it blended in. We're not leaving a lot of heaviness and weight on this fade, so we're just going to wait to trim our top until everything's blended. We really want to leave more length in the crown and on the top of the hair. So every time I'm cutting that corner to blend it, I am just kind of getting to a point where whenever I'm finished with these bangs, I can go in and cut all of the top of the head and then just slightly blend in any corners that may be left over, which are usually very slim. So I've got my bangs even, and I am pulling everything from the direction of where it grows, and I'm double checking as I go. Making sure that I have the bangs even, I'm going to go in and start at the pivotal point of the head, which is really going to set the top of this haircut for me, and that's going to be in the middle. So creating this mohawk guide, I'm going to start from the cowlick because I already have a lot blended towards that end, and then I'm going to bring everything to the same length as the bangs with a slight elevation going into the bangs so that I can have a little bit more length. Now I'm going to do the exact same thing, but this way I'm going to go in a different direction. So finding the guide that I created for my mohawk section, I am picking up the hair on both sides of the head and I am cutting off my corner from all of my angles. So keeping the head flat in the middle and then going in and rounding my corners out. When I say corners, it's the weight that is left over that the eye can see, but you can't really tell until you pick up the hair and notice that two sides are the same length and the middle section is kind of like a V. That would be your corner. So blending these bangs in, I am pulling up and cutting the bangs to the same length that I already created my guide at. So I'm pulling the bangs up and then I am point cutting everything to the bang length in the front of the hair. This way I know I'm not taking off too much hair and I can leave a lot of weight, but at the same time we don't want anything left over or too heavy because then it would look like just kind of stringy. We want to leave some fullness and thickness in this haircut. So that is how I would blend in my bald fade. Now after a wash, I'm going to go ahead and straight razor the back of my client's neck. This is going to leave just a really nice look, and clients usually enjoy the process of having a straight razor on the back of the neck. It does allow for a longer time in the grow out of the hair. So I applied shaving cream, I applied a hot towel, and now I am applying another round of shaving cream, and I already loaded my razor. I'm tilting my client's head down. I'm lightly pulling up on the back of the neck and then just going down. This is going with the direction of the hair growth. So before I would ever go against the direction of the hair growth to get a really smooth shave, I want to go with the direction so that I can make sure I'm not leaving any hairs to get pushed up into the skin and leave anything for an ingrown hair. So continuing to do the exact same thing on the other side, I'm just going with the direction of hair growth. And then whenever I get to the corner by the ear, I'm tilting my comb. The hair does normally grow at this angle. And then I usually set this nice crisp line with my straight razor and then clean any excess hair up. I go ahead and clean off my shaving cream, and now we are going to style my client's haircut. So first of all, I am starting off in the bangs area. If you want to have fuller bangs in the front, you want to blow dry the hair really fluffy, and sometimes you can even blow dry the hair going backwards. And then to set your haircut, you want to start to blow dry the hair in the direction of the style. After that, I'm applying a wax pomade in the hair. This is going to leave a matte finish. We definitely don't want anything shiny on hair that is slightly thinner in the front because this will cause light reflection and it will look even thinner. So now we have a beautiful haircut and beard trim. I really hope you enjoyed this video and learned something. Please don't forget to check out all my products in the Amazon store and enjoy your day. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks.